responding to this video, and I'm like responding to a video that's response to a video that's also like a response to like culture and shit like that, and it's all coincidence, right? Who knows if any of it's actually real, right? Because time doesn't flow in one direction. It flows all kinds of fucking flipped up ways. And so it's like the fact that they are seeing videos, that I'm seeing videos, and we seem to have this coherence between the two. That's just a coincidence. It's just a coincidence that like I perceive the videos in a way that like are supposedly the same or similar to the ways that they're talked about and perceived amongst themselves. But it doesn't necessarily mean that that's actually the case. It doesn't actually mean that like that the time coherence that I perceive is real. It just means that like it just means that it seems that way, and it doesn't necessarily mean that other people perceive it to be that same way, right? All it means is that it seems to be that way. And how do you rectify that? How do you exist knowing that the internet may have existed exactly in the same form hundreds of times and has or more, you know, let's not sell it short. It could have existed millions or billions of times, and it's just we perceive it to be like this coherent thing, but really what we're getting is like literally the ancient Egyptian fucking internet is like actually Wikipedia, and like the ancient Aztec internet was like literally Tumblr and shit like that. Like we don't know. And people in the future and people in the past, they're all responding to videos that are in the future and in the past all at the same time, and they don't know because everything looks the same as it always did every single time, and it's happened all this time, and it happens again and again. You know, I am taking my pills. This is me taking my fucking blue pills all the time. Can you believe that? Is that something believable? This is me normal. This is me normal. You don't want to see me when I'm not normal, because when I'm not normal, I just am so inside my own self that and perceiving everything around me that I can't even bring words out, because it's just like they're just stuck inside me, and the internet that's inside my body is like full of all these new things, and then it becomes the whole internet itself, and I am eating the whole world, and I am the whole world, and fuck you, and fuck you. Fuck all of you. Seriously. If you're watching this, like, I don't know why, and I don't get it, and I'm the only person who really understands, but then at the same time, I don't even understand, and neither do you, and if you think you understand, you don't, and that's just the fucking world we live in. This is me normal, and shit, when I'm on my pills, except when I'm off my pills and I'm quiet, sometimes I also get like totally impulsive and just do everything that my brain says to do, which is not a good place to be when my brain is saying that like everyone around me is shadow people and I should fucking murder them all. I try not to do that. See, I try not to do that. That's why no one's died around me yet, because I try to hold on to the semblance of reality which has been constructed by my mind for the benefit of all. That's idiot God for you, right? It tries to stay asleep because it knows that waking up. And maybe I should detransition too. You know, I just need to stir up more drama, and maybe that's the way to do it. I'm now detransitioning to just human. I'm just human. I'm nothing else. What gender are you? Human? Fuck you. Fuck your degenerate male and female bullshit. At first we had Lily, Osaka syndrome. Now Dose-Mite's detransitioning, or whatever the fuck that means. Detransitioning to exactly the same person, the exact same archetype, but just with different words. And somehow it's less degenerate. But at least she doesn't have to say fuck. At least fuck shit. See, I'm bad. I'm a bad person. I don't respect pronouns. I'm a disrespecter of pronouns. They them. They them. He it. Those might. It's all a joke. It's all a joke. See, it's okay because it's all a joke. See, this is what the part of the transgender community doesn't like. They don't like jokes. They don't like edgy, stupid jokes. So I'm like antithetical or whatever, because the only kind of jokes that I really enjoy are ones where someone dies at the end. Oh man, I guess I'm working out to that point at some point, right? It's got to be the only conclusion to the Jolly Lane experience, right? Suicide by katana, what is it called? I don't know, where you pull out all your guts, and then it's just a balloon, and then it's just a balloon and it pops. Oh man. So I used to take balloons and felt sorry that we were tethering them down, so I'd let them go. Maybe I need to be let go and float up. Just float up. I can't do it. I'm stuck down. I'm tethered to this rock. Yeah, maybe detransition words. No, I don't actually think that. I don't actually think that. This is not a detransition video, where I'm detransitioning to an NB demi boy. See, it's even more. See, that's the thing, right? It's becoming even more Tumblr by adding all these words to it. So in a way, it's more degenerate. And really, we should go back to our roots. And the roots we all share is the Roman roots. And so really, what we all are eunuchs. All us HRT pieces of shit. We're all just eunuchs, and we should embrace that, and we should bring it back. All right, eunuch squad, ready, go. And to note that the eunuch acceptance occurred during the late stages of the Roman Empire when collapse was occurring. So it all works out in the end. After the fall of the great I don't know what you call it, the Great Glass Empire, or something to that effect. They'll be able to have this digital version. No, they won't, because it will all be gone. It'll all be gone, and only the writings will exist. And it's something I kind of don't really want to believe, but I have to. I have to accept it. I have to accept it as truth, because it fucking is going to happen again and again and again.
I'm totally uninspired right now. And it's not just like I'm uninspired to do a video, but I'm like uninspired to do anything. The only thing right now that seems satisfying in any regard is going to sleep. And I would think about going for a walk just to get out of the house and maybe feel a little bit better that way, but it's like literally raining and windy and garbage outside. Maybe that's why I feel like this. Or maybe it's like that because I feel like this. Sucks though. So instead of doing that, I'm turning my ambivalence to doing anything into a thing for me to talk about, because at least then I'm trying to engage the synapses of activity rather than the synapses of just lay down and rot. But damn, it's hard. Because I just don't give a shit right now. There's a new Wendell video, and then he was talking about how the way the people consume media is in video today. So being being in ebook world or being on text is not a good idea, and you're just wrong about this. And the reason you're wrong is kind of like, it's not like you're wrong about people watching video. Like, everyone's watching video, but you say that as if video is one format or one kind of media, and it's not. Where people are right now is watching short form, soundbite kind of bullshit videos, not long form videos. There's a bunch of people who just will not watch videos that are very long. If they want to watch a long video, they're gonna watch a TV show or a movie. So, you call your things movies, but it has none of the trappings of a movie. It doesn't have music. It doesn't have, right? Like there's all these things about what makes a movie, like cinematography and like actors, various actors, and like a plot. And some of the things have plots, but it's like too grounded, and the narrative is too sprawling, and it's not like it's in no way, shape, or form is it a traditional movie, is what I'm trying to say. And so you may as well be like, you know, writing books and nothing else, because that's how much effort you're putting into your medium to reach the place where people actually are. If you really wanted to understand that, you'd go on TikTok and like consume a bunch of TikTok to figure out what it is they're doing, and then do that. But like, that sucks. That's like and I totally realize, like, I've tried this and it sucks and I hate it and I don't want anything to do with it because I'm a boomer and I'm old and my brain rejects new things. I have a lot of problems with it. I think everyone who would watch this kind of video knows what all those problems are, and so I don't really need to explain it. But it's bad, and I have done stuff that's like TikTok friendly, you could say. I have like a playlist called Infected by Haste, and I feel like that's what's going on, is people are infected by haste. They want all that dopamine, bam, smash, right in 1 second, rather than like something that may provide like small amounts of dopamine over a longer period of time. Which is relatable, I suppose. But making long form video content that's like in the hour long range, you may as well just only be writing books. That like, because books are going to exist forever, essentially, and your target audience may not be contemporary. I think that there is going to be like a switchback towards more traditional media, and at that point, books will have the day again, kind of a thing. But yeah, like, just making video is not the same thing as going to where eyes are and ears, right? Like, and it's not like I don't understand. Like, there's a lot of artistry that comes in with video that is lost if you go to a text world. But there's a different artistry there too, right? So, and there's certain things that really can only be done through that form. So, yeah, I wanna get into print. I wanna have a printed book with all my shit in it, like all my art shit and all my writing shit. It'd be nice to be able to hold something like that and like flip the pages and see it, rather than something that's like on something like this.
It's windy, man. I've been smoking a whole bunch of different kinds of cigarettes lately. I think I've settled on one that I like the most, which is Jade Camels. They're just so damn smooth, and the cooling is good. It's got the menthol in it. Just a nice, good cigarette. Gosh, I didn't really want to find one that I really liked, but what can you do? Be a habitual smoker forever. And it's got like a good amount of nicotine. Still makes me a little bit dizzy. Maybe that's the wind. I don't know. Should not be wearing a flowy skirt. Commando. While I'm walking in this kind of wind, but here I am anyway, doing it for kicks and giggles, I guess. There's a car. See the car go by? Oh no! Someone saw me. There was a potential incident. In 6 hypothetical timelines, I have been arrested for indecent exposure. So luck is a thing, right? I'm going through the sacred cow. And it's actually pretty good. I'm kind of liking it. I've gotten into no thank you content. Been watching some of the most recent videos he's been putting out, and they're pretty good. I don't know why I slept on it for so long. Maybe because I don't like being part of the first wave of stuff, or maybe because I'm just always lagging behind. I don't know. I've been called half Dempa, half Dempa, and half whatever the fuck else I am. You know, that other half is all kinds of shit. It's all kinds of shit, but most of it is retarded. I think I've already said this. Yeah, I think I already have. I think I've already said this in a video, actually. I think I've already said this in this video. Actually, I think I will say this later in this video. Time is wibble wobble, and also I have control over parts of it. At least it seems that way, because luck is the only thing that exists, except is it? Well, it was brought up the idea that there was possible multiple lucks, and I think that jives with it, because the planet we happen to inhabit is contained by no less than 7 billion lux. Oh gosh, no less than 7 billion lux, but possibly way the fuck more, possibly trillions or even bajillions of them. Like this wind could be controlled by a trillion different lux, and they're all working together in one uniform vision to create this wind. But we all operate under the same principles of luck, right? So right, if luck was the only thing, and there was only one luck, then if you could bend that luck to your will, you could just walk right through a wall, right? But that doesn't happen. At least it doesn't happen as far as we can perceive it, generally speaking. Oh my god. Generally what happens is classical, like luck coalesces into classical mutations that we can observe, and they're consistent, which has to mean that luck is, at least in our local space, kind of a uniform, right? Like, how many times does it take to luck your way into a photon? I don't know, maybe a couple times, maybe like 100 times. But like once it's done, once you've lucked your way into a photon, I think getting a photon again is not that difficult, generally speaking. And then you luck your way from photons to hydrogen. You luck your way from hydrogen to like other shit. And then you have just like all kinds of shit that exists. All kinds of shit that exists. And in the quantum foam, like, it's still there, right? Like, there's still quantum bullshit, and luck can just all of a sudden decide, like, poof, there's a golden apple in my hand. But it didn't happen, right? Because my force of luck is contained within this structure, at least most of the time. Sometimes I can send my luck right through the wall of the fourth wall. I can send it right through. Oh my god. Ugh. Going for a walk in this wind was a mistake. So yeah, like luck is the thing, but you have to consider the fact that there's multiple lucks, and a lot of them are working together to create something that appears quite coherent. It appears to be quite coherent, and that's the kind of flaw in thinking about things that way, I guess. But I guess it doesn't really matter, because it can only be defined by luck anyway, and so the reasoning still works. Oh my god, I need to stop walking and stop recording right now. It's just too much.
Review our Switch game cases, the cases for the Switch games. Now, Switch games come with this red label on the outside, with the name on it. Some of them have a little bit different kind of logo stuff. And because of that, I don't like the outside being on the outside. This is the outside of it. I don't like them being on the outside. The outsides all suck. Every single one. All the outsides suck. Every single one. They have like logos and shit. So all of them are bad. But some of the insides are good. And some of the insides are more interesting than others. So I always flip them up inside out. So here's like one of the worst ones. This is one of the worst games. I also keep them open because they look nicer typically. The good ones look nicer this way. And it's also easier to get the games out, right? Minecraft is being used on a Switch right now, but yeah, it's easier to get to the game if it's already open. So this one is kind of bad. So it does have a nice image, and when it's closed, it doesn't have that red border. You can still kind of tell what game it is, but it has this along the side. Now all of these games came with legal jargonese all over it on the inside, but some of them do it better than others, and others do it really terribly. This is another one. This is the Fit game, Ring Fit Adventure. See, this one doesn't say anything about what it is on the inside, but it just has a bunch of legal stuff. So these ones are both bad. I'd say this one's worse than this one, right? Because this one at least you still know what game it is. This one, I'd say it's better than both of these, for no reason other than it's just completely white. You know, it's not offensive that way. But this is Starlink Battle for Atlas, and you know, I'd rather it be just completely blank and white. This one had legalese, jargon bullshit, but it was all like on a little card on the inside. Then we have an interesting one where this is Bayonetta 2, and on the inside it has Bayonetta, the Bayonetta thing. So that one's kind of cool in that it has like 2 different games and it has both of the outsides, but it's kind of annoying because there is no inside version that's just like nice. But it has like the game code, so I have that covered up. And this one was kind of fun. This is Cave Story Plus, I think. And so it came with the OST. It comes with a little booklet. This one is one of the most premium experiences when it comes to Switch game cases. And on the inside, it has some nice art and like the Japanese style kind of box art, which looks really nice. It looks super nice. So this would be like getting into a good tier. Next we have a category of cases that, but I still don't like this one all that much because it is cluttered, right? It has all this kind of advertisement stuff, and I'd prefer just like this kind of art going across the entire thing. So next is a category of insides that are more functional. So here we have Bomberman, and on the inside it had how to play the game. Now this one doesn't look that great because it's all black and white, but it's better than anything that came previous because at least it has some kind of functionality, even if it doesn't look good. In the same category we have Puyo Puyo Tetris, where it has how you play the game, and this one looks kind of nice too. It has nice Puyo Puyos and Tetrimos. Additionally, in the same kind of category, we have Super Robot Wars, and it has the controls for the game right here. I guess I shouldn't have shown the access key. Maybe we'll blur it out, or maybe we won't. So that's that category. There's a few of them that have that kind of setup, and I'd rather that than the legalese bullshit that those previous ones had. But we can do better. We can do a lot better. So here's Super Mario Odyssey. Super Mario Odyssey on the inside of it has the lyrics to Jump Up Superstar. And you can tell that this is Mario. It looks kind of but it's not terrible. It does have some of this shit on it, and I wish it didn't. But you know, it's kind of nice. It's kind of nice. Definitely better than anything that we've looked at previously. Better still, we have Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle, and it's just got this nice, very simple background. Nothing crazy about here. Oops, we just dropped them on the ground. So next we have Let's Go Eevee. I think Pikachu has the same inside. Or it's got the map. that's fucking cool. That's cool as shit. This is really cool. This is super useful in the game if you're playing the game, because it shows where Pokemon can be located generally, and it just looks fucking amazing. Like, it looks like a piece of art, and it has just a little bit of text on it, but it's something that you wouldn't be ashamed of having a big print of. The next good one is Breath of the Wild, right? Like, that looks fucking sick, and it's a shame that, like, more people don't put them on the outside, because, you know, when you have a good inside, you want to show it off, and this one is really, really good. And then the last good one that we have is Pokemon Legends Arceus, where on the outside it has this freaking classic art. So that's jolly ranking of the kind of Switch game cases. Nintendo America, if you're listening, more like this, less like this, and just stop. Just completely reject shit like this. Just if someone submits something like this, just say no. Just say no. Don't let them make them. It's garbage. Finished Pokemon Legends Arceus. I now have a piece of the Pokemon God dwelling with me, and it can see through my eyes. I can show it the world as I perceive it. Isn't that cool? It takes, you know, a long time to do all of the tasks that God requires. But once you do, you have a piece of the Pokemon God living with you. It's like raining. It's like slightly drizzly kind of bullshit rain. The fuck? I was hoping I'd be able to, well, write some stuff outside. I can make this thing work. Is this the right way, or is this the right way? This feels more like the right way. Ah, shit. There you go. Oh, yeah. Perfect. Nice. We have a umbrella. Ella. Hey. Pop music is good. I don't know what you're talking about. And I think he's dumb. I think he has no idea what the fuck he's talking. No, I'm just kidding. Pop music's trash. Except if you consider stuff like Nelly pop music, in which case pop music is just the best thing ever. That's the kind of pop music I fucking love. So I'm half Dempa, but like also half something else, and the other half is retarded. That's the other half. You forgot to consider the fact that I'm half retarded. We're gonna write some really lolly pedo shit, because I'm a lolly pedo, and I need to admit that to myself and to the internet, and hopefully the police don't come for me. They don't give a shit. I live right next to an elementary school. They don't give a shit. I'm not like a dangerous one, you know. I'm one of the good ones. So there's this character in this book who's an NB tran, and then there's a binary tran, and just a gay guy, just a gay guy. He's probably the least fleshed out. I feel bad for him because I named him YOLO, you know, because I knew I wanted that kind of counterpoint to the other two, but it's not as good as it could be. Wow, hit me weird. So I'm working on Spite as the section, and it went a little weird. Went a little weird on me. There's another character who's just with them right now, and she's gonna be part of the game, you know. But she's really part of the game now, because she turns out she's one of those what are they called? Naotare. something like that. She likes to watch, you know, and so we're having a weird kinky scene right now. Because I like sex as intimacy. I like the emotional interplay between characters, and that's a really good way to show it, and shit. And so it's like a vulnerable moment, and you're able to do a lot with it. So more books should have shit like that. You know, that's why eroge is so good. You know, at least when they do it right. When they do it right, it's really good. When they do it wrong, it's just, you know, gratuitous kind of nonsense. We're trying to fix our voice, but we're doing a bad job of it. It takes practice, and I don't practice enough. So we should be practicing now. I mean, if not now, then when? You know, if not now, when I'm recording Into the Void, and the people who watch. When the fuck am I gonna do it? And sometimes I use this voice to demonstrate a kind of, what is it called? Fracture or something. But really, I want this to be my normal voice, and this voice to be the fracture. You know, this voice should be the fucking fracture. But but it's difficult because it actually tends to be the other way around, generally speaking. So update on the little farm. Got some more seeds. We got some seed onions and shallots, and I think I planted the strawberries. I don't know how well they're doing. They haven't sent out any runners or anything yet. Hopefully they do good. Also got some raspberries. Hopefully they'll do okay. But you can't survive off raspberries and strawberries. That's not a very well-rounded diet, you know. So I also have some beans coming in that I think I'm gonna do. Then some tomatoes and poblano peppers. Hopefully those grow here. I don't know. It should be warm enough during the summer, right? They'll die during the winter, but everything basically dies during the winter. Seems like. What else? Yeah, the tilling machine definitely helped. I definitely, you know, it took a week long digging through the dirt with my current physical levels and turned it into a 3-hour kind of event, which was kind of nice. But I'll have to do some more. I'm thinking over there in the void area, you know, where it's all black and you can't see anything. Just like right there. Maybe over there in that part of the void. Maybe here. No, there's like a shed right there. I don't know. I'm thinking lots of stuff. Oh, you don't like that angle? How about this angle? How about this angle? How about this angle? How's that angle? Is that angle better? I don't know. Now it's gonna definitely have to be either cut or it's just gonna be sideways the whole time now, I guess. Who cares? I certainly don't. I don't give a shit about editing. Editing is the worst thing I ever imagined, you know? I imagined it, and so it became a real thing, and then now everyone is forced to do editing, but I don't. Fuck editing. Editing is for plebeian retards who have too much time on their hands. It's a waste of human effort. Part of me wants to read the whole thing. It's I haven't decided on an order for certain things. Certain things are chronological, obviously. There's events that happen, and they happen, you know, somewhat sequentially, but some of it's definitely not sequential. Like, the same event is talked about at different points, from different characters' points of view. And it's kind of... It makes it like whose point of view should come first, and should I intermix these points of view? Should I put this section here or there? So reading it is difficult. Why don't we start with YOLO Coonsimp, his first Act 0. Let's just read it. You know, why not? No, it's a bad one to start with because he starts by reacting to these other characters who we don't know anything about. We don't know anything about them, so why should we start there? Okay, let's start with Cyber then.
Oh man, it's emotionally hard for me to read this. It's emotionally hard to write it too. I think there's still some work to do on this in this section, but let's just go. Let's just read it. Cyber didn't like the situation Lal was in. That much should be plenty obvious. Kimberly, are you doing your schoolwork? Lur mom opening the door to check on Lur. Cyber frowned. Yes, you're interrupting it, actually. Well, you can't expect me to just believe you. Who knows what you're getting up to in here? Lur mom left the door open and left. Cyber got up and closed the door. And don't call me that! Lal shouted at the door and slammed it shut. Lal could hear through the door. You were born Kimberly, and that's all there is to it. I'm not gonna bend to your ridiculous whims. Fucking infuriating. It was as if Cyber wasn't actually It wasn't as if Cyber wasn't actually doing schoolwork, but Lal had to admit that if her mom knew about things, she was going to flip her lid and ban her from everything. God forbid she found Lur's porn folder. There was a gap between them. Cyber imagined it was a generational upbringing thing, but Lal knew it was the circumstances of Lur mother's upbringing. But Lal knew that the circumstances of Lur mother's upbringing had been extremely similar to Lur own. Nothing had changed in centuries. There was something about who Lal was fundamentally different. Lur gender was just an aspect of it, as much as Lal wanted to blame it all on that. Lur earliest memories already conflicted with the upbringing. Cyber asked more questions about points of doctrine than Lur peers. Even as Lal tried to accept them, Lal kept running into boundaries where doctrinal truths ran into it's a matter of faith. Well, that's just way too convenient. If God really had any kind of power, why did it make the world this way? What was its goals? And Lal could only conclude that if that God was good for the majority, it wasn't good for Lur. Eventually, Lal was asked not to come back to the group meetings, as Lur questioning was throwing confusion among Lur peer group, and even many of the teachers. Eventually, Lal was asked not to come back to the group meetings, as Lur questioning was throwing confusion among Lur peer group and even many of the teachers. More than a few had left the congregation, no small part to the questions Lal was asking. After that, Cyber had more time to study for herself, other various philosophies and teachings. Oh God, I accidentally a thing. The similarities between them spoke to similar human-centric drive for understanding the unfathomable, and it became clear that no one knew anything one way or the other. No gods existed, or if they did, were pleased with themselves enough to stay out of human affairs. Lal reasoned for a time that if this were the case, it could be because humans needed to learn things for themselves. And with that thought, Lal freed herself from the tyranny of their old beliefs. Lal had, as far as Lal was concerned, permission to seek understanding of herself and the world Lal inhabited without fear of condemnation. Kimberly, I thought I told you to do the laundry before I came home. Lal's father this time. Shit, I forgot. Immediately regretted Lur language. Before Lal knew what was happening, Lur hair was being pulled, dragging Lur from Lur's chair and onto the ground. I'm sorry, father. Using the devil's tongue, let's clean that mouth of yours. How many times have I told you? The words felt far away, as Cyber, less present in Lur's body, was and more watching the events play out. It wasn't the first time, and she knew it wouldn't be the last. Lur parents would blame Lur friends online for corrupting Lur mind with language, even if Lal already had this rebellion within Lur long before Lal had any friends. When Lal first went on Wired for schoolwork, it was like a whole new world opened up to Lur. Before then, all Lal had was an unwired pad with religious texts. Lal had learned how to break the walls of that device to allow Lur to put anything else to read on it, and that's how Lal spent most of Lur time. With the Wired, Lal had access to a vast repository of video and audio made by other people who had the same questions as Cyber had. Learning that was like a dream come true. Cyber wasn't alone in questioning the foundations of this culture, of this world. And while there was no real answers, just knowing that Lal wasn't alone made a world of difference. Soon Lal discovered the written document experimental social media platform and became one of the more prolific writers on it. See, this can't come first because it's talking about a thing that happens later. It's fine. Lal would have deep dive conversations with people Lal didn't know in far off places, and that was how Lal met both Yuki and later Yolo. Yeah, it just kind of stops right there. It needs to have a
either something come before it or something come after it. Next thing. Heavy. Always so heavy. Laying in bed, the dark, there should be like a comma or something there. Maybe I should just add it right now. I'd have to like turn my keyboard on. Laying in bed, comma. The room dark except for a few red and green blinks from electronic devices here and there in the corners of the room. All the blue lights had been covered with thick tape to prevent their piercing glow. The windows, too, had been covered with cardboard, so there was no telling what time it was, not from any information in the direct environment. Her body didn't want to move. Heavy. The air was cool and dry, but her body was hot and moist from the heat her body worked up in her sleep. She slept without any covering except a light sheet, which she had kicked off in her sleep. She lifted her arms to her chest to wipe the sweat from it. It felt like this often when she woke up. Like she had just been working out, her muscles stiff and leadened, covered in sweat, sometimes out of breath. Anytime she woke up in such a state, she never remembered her dreams, which was a slight oddity for her, since before this had started happening, she always remembered her dreams vividly. She wondered what time it was, if she could get away with going back to sleep. She had no clocks, and her phone and watch were in the other room, to keep her from her bad habit of spoiling away time on meaningless searches through the feeds. The feeds were all tuned to each consumer's taste in order to maximize the time spent on them. She closed her eyes, a symbolic gesture to focus her perception inward. How did she feel? Heaviness, slightly accelerated heart rate, thirsty, bladder was nearing full. She took a deep breath. She didn't feel fatigued or tired. Going back to sleep then was just a pointless thought. A waste of time, regardless of when it was. Time was an illusion. Sleeping according to the needs of the body. Eat according to the needs of the body. That was the most natural rhythm. Still, she couldn't completely abandon her society's view of time. If she needed to go to a shop, shop to get supplies. She had to do it when they were in service, after all. Sometimes that meant she would need to force herself to stay awake longer or wake up earlier than she wanted. Sometimes it meant going without for a few days more than she'd like. Compromises. Generally, it wasn't a problem, as these places tended to operate a good half of the day. So she'd either go down when she got up or before retiring to bed as needed. She didn't have any good reason to stay in bed. She no longer felt the desire to sleep, but didn't really have much reason to wake up either. She had no obligations. She, and the vast majority, had automation to thank for that. A minority of people still worked, or rather, basically everyone worked sometimes, when they felt like it, or when they wanted a new toy they couldn't afford otherwise, better housing, a gaming rig, recreational vehicles. Some people wanted more, and they worked more often, or even all the time, but that was more rare. The few who were full-timers did so because they liked it. They didn't want to be home, or they couldn't figure out what else to do with their time. She never had that problem. She had a hard time imagining what that would be like. Sometimes she did feel the emptiness of her species' position, the slow existential gnawing that told her that all her ancestors' toils had amounted to obsoleting themselves out of existence, that in the end the only thing she could do was idle her time away until it ran out. The only difference now was the work to get to, oh, I'm done getting everything I will ever want, was no longer generational. It was a decade or two. She had gone down the road of social bonds, family, material, carnal. The intellectual pursuits probably were the longest lasting. There was enough to learn, but little new to find. The study was just following the same paths that others had walked before, and she realized going down even those roads to come to the end of it would take a lifetime, leaving you knowing no more than anyone else had ever known before you. It had been this way a long time, centuries maybe. This wasn't her generation's world. It had been this way since before anyone alive, and nothing had changed since then. Sure, new products would arrive like clockwork, but they weren't any better, not in any meaningful way. That's how it was. The moment-to-moment life, the simple things was where life was, not in the technological gadgets and the latest fashions. So many people seemed satisfied with spending all their time on that. A strange equilibrium this was. She decided she wanted to go out, get out of this little bubble she had created for herself.
a walk to clear her head of the void. Gazing into it only served to make her feel small. She dressed herself, hoodie without shirt or bra, a long skirt. She changed her underwear and added some bike shorts. Walking any meaningful distance would cause chafing otherwise. She had some loose change, a lighter, a pack of cigarettes in the hoodie. She left without shoes or locking the door. Shoes were a nuisance. She felt like it was a lie to her body about the condition of her reality. She liked to remind herself of the world she inhabited. It didn't bother her walking on rocks, roads, concrete, or vegetation. She had long become accustomed to it. Opening the door from her dark room, she noticed it was night. She enjoyed walking out at night. It was generally a lot less active, as far as human activity was concerned. There were people out, some fast cars here and there, or in the distance, much less than the normal din of day. So she would take the opportunity to walk out at night when it presented itself to her. She lit up a cigarette, a bad habit maybe, but took it up a few years back when she decided she had enough of being overweight. She figured lung cancer was probably more curable than diabetes in reality, so when she had a craving to eat, she'd smoke. The bad taste in her mouth made eating an unpleasant notion. The nicotine itself had appetite-reducing qualities. She doubted anyone would have agreed to this was a rational course of action, but she was a good 40 kilograms lighter than when she had made that decision, and had a healthy BMI for the first time since childhood. She counted it a win. The air was humid, midsummer, but not too warm, but definitely humid. It wasn't terribly comfortable, but it was far better than the midday would be. She wondered with the way the environmental changes were occurring if humans would be forced to adopt a nocturnal lifestyle in the coming decades as temperature increases made going out in the sun more crazy. She didn't have any hope that institutional changes would happen to prevent the coming disaster. Or was the heat death of the earth just a propaganda device to cause more spending in some target demographics? It didn't matter what she chose to believe about it. She lived how she did regardless of those facts, in line with only how she felt best. So may as well accept the story, at least until it was proven false or otherwise. Of course, with regard to changes in the environment, the day being hot would be a drop in the bucket next to the other problems the changes were supposed to bring. Droughts, famines, hurricanes, flooding, all would become more regular and more severe nearly everywhere. She took a long drag on her cigarette, thinking about shit like that was the definition of pointless. She went down that particular rabbit hole many times, and it was always fruitless. Her lifestyle was already minimal, so she could do nothing herself more than she already did. Well, that wasn't entirely true, but doing more would put herself into a prison as a domestic terrorist, if she was lucky, and she didn't want to believe the story enough to make herself a martyr. She had already experienced the pain of being held in an institution against her will, and didn't really want to repeat that, regardless of any impulsive thoughts she might have. She was wandering somewhat aimlessly around neighborhoods she somewhat knew, but hadn't visited in a while. She liked to see the environment, the changes in the landscape, road maintenance and repair, things like that. The trigger to the thoughts about the potential nocturnal human society were seated in the fear that she would have to share these nights with the washed masses. She'd have to smell their perfumes, breathe their dust-filled air of cars, or more realistically, become a lone wanderer in the light and heat of the day, God forbid. Luckily, she used the word with the most irony she could bear. The society was car-based, so she probably would hardly care if the outside temperatures. So they probably would hardly care if the outside temperatures reached 40 C regularly. She realized at that moment she had stumbled onto a sight she had never seen before. There was a dark arch made of 2 vertical posts and a horizontal one extending across them, supported by them. She recognized it as Shinto, Buddhist, one of the two. She didn't know if there were differences between how those arches would look between those two, or even if one didn't have any such thing at all. She thought probably a Buddhist would similarly not know the difference between the Christian cross with only 2 bars and the one with a 3rd slash through it. Probably many Christians wouldn't know the difference either. So maybe it's not like that. She approached it slowly, as she was curious about the place. There was light further into the area, but the area around the gate itself was fairly dark. There was some kind of inscriptions on the post as she approached to get a better look. As it was dark, she came right up to the gate and stopped to look at it. The area itself wasn't locked or shut, so she figured it was okay. On the left post was written writing she recognized as kanji, but wasn't able to read it except the meaning of a few of them, like the form of the form for mouth, sun, river. There was no translation, so she was a bit disappointed. She thought about going further and bent to the ground to put out her cigarette, stuffed the butt in the carton in her hoodie, and entered through the gate with her left foot first. There was a change in the air, in the ground. The temperature of the ground she felt was cooler. The air seemed denser, less humid. There was a scent of some kind of flower in the air. Her mind wanted to say wisteria, but she didn't know if that was what it was or not. She walked up the short path, which was hedged on both sides by shrubs blocking her view, which opened into a too large it seemed, courtyard or square. There were little buildings, clearly traditional Asian design, a sand garden with rocks, a small stream or pond. It was an idyllic shrine. Someone came out from one of the nearby buildings. She was dressed in a white top and dark red bottom, with white socks and wooden sandals. She had a wooden broom, and her face was adorned with an ornate mask that covered the top half of her face. Her long, straight black hair was neatly tied back into a ponytail. Picturesque, beautiful. She held herself with elegance, and her movements ephemeral, fluid. "You're here early," the Miko said, in a kind, soft voice which flowed over the air. "Or late, I suppose. Sorry if you're closed at this hour, whatever this hour is," she added under her breath. The Miko giggled and raised her right hand palm outward to cover her mouth as she did so. No, it's perfectly all right. It's 3 a.m., by the way, and we are always open to those who pass through our gates." She paused and bowed slightly. "I'm the maiden of the shrine. Are you here to pay respects?" "Pay my respects," she repeated the question quietly. "I just happened to be in the area and had never noticed this temple before. It looked quite interesting, is all," she answered honestly. "So your fate has brought you here, then?" She thought about that for a second. She didn't really believe in fate, whatever that means, but maybe it's just a word for coincidence. Sure, maybe. I don't really know any gods worth worshipping, or believe in fates, or anything like that. Oh, the shrine maiden looked slightly puzzled. "What is your concept of karma and fate, then, if I may be so bold? Isn't fate what God or predestination has in store for a person, the greater plan for them, and karma is like some kind of spiritual currency you get when you do good things and lose when you do bad things. So you're paid back by the gods or the universe, good or bad things in return." The shrine maiden walked from the spot she had been standing and leaned her broom on the wall of the building, then gestured for the woman to walk with her, not having any reason not to follow. She did. "That concept of fate is indeed quite rigid. I don't think that you were brought here because it was the only path that the universe has only one road for each of us, which we cannot change. And karma is nothing so arbitrary." They walked along the stream that passed between the buildings, over a small wooden bridge. "Everything in our lives, those things that mean something to us, make up our karma, and our relationship to those things are culminated in our fates." The Miko said it as if it were a fact, even though she didn't really seem like she had said anything different than what she herself had said. "Karma is our worldly bonds. For instance, you have karma due to your habitual smoking," she said. "You could call it a stain on your soul if that's easier to understand. But having karma isn't bad. It's the natural state. Some people have more or less, depending on how deeply they are connected to those things." The Miko stopped and turned to look at her, right in her eyes. She could almost feel the shrine maiden's breath. "You have little karma." She said it matter-of-factly. "Much less than someone your age normally has." She paused, still looking at her. It felt as if she was trying to see past her. She continued walking, then. "There are some schools of thought that say a human's greatest path is to reduce their karma completely, so to be free of the worldly bonds while on the earth. Perhaps there is wisdom in such a road, but the way we see it is, humans without their bonds are nothing. Those bonds are what drive us, push us toward our various ends. When a person is bound up with too much karma, they are being pushed from all sides, and thus it becomes hard to move forward. Because you have so little karma, those few bonds you have are able to make a bigger impact on you. They push you more directly towards your fates." The Miko continued her explanation. She didn't have any reason to listen, nor did she believe what was being said was entirely true, in the literal sense. But what she was being said rang true, at least as a way of thinking about the world. She didn't know what it was about her which had clued the shrine maiden in on her not having much karma. But that much was true as far as this school of thought was concerned. She had long since abandoned her emotional connections with her past, family, friends, the worldly things. She spent time reading, watching videos, learning. She had given up many of the pastimes she thought she would never grow out of, music and games, for example, as shallow pursuits without any deep meaning.
Their voices told her to spend her time idly, accomplishing nothing that would or could ever matter. So she had cut them off. She followed her karma to their fates in a more direct fashion than those people she had long abandoned. She didn't know how they could be satisfied with their trivial pursuits, and as the gap between them increased, the severing became the natural result of their having drifted apart. Maybe it was how she was dressed. Simply, no shoes even, but not like a beggar or what she imagined a beggar might look like. She wasn't terribly unkempt or dirty. She wore what she did because it was natural to her. She didn't have the karma of a soul tainted by pride or physical appearance or jewelry. She wore no makeup and had unperfumed hair and skin, just the smell of her cigarette. Beyond that, she was sure just how she held herself, how she walked, the tone of her voice, and the words she used could also tell other things about herself. She was cynical towards the world and lived a minimal existence. Cold reading could give that much away. "You're a deep one," the maiden said after some time. "Sorry, no need to apologize. I know what I have said has stirred your cynical mind. If it helps, I could say I'm going based on your small reactions to my words, or that I was reading the muscles of your face. That way you could have your explanation." The shrine maiden said almost sadly, "The truth is irrelevant. What exists is only what one perceives. Humans tend to think that the world is what they made of it. But do you think maybe those coins in your hoodie jacket maybe intended to come here, and you are just the instrument for their arrival?" She pointed at the offering box, which she had led them towards. "Clap and give your offerings, and clap again, then pray." She clapped her hands and grabbed the coins from her hoodie and looked at them. There were 6 or 7 coins of various denomination. She tossed them all into the box, and clapped her hands again and closed her eyes. The Miko still beside her with a gentle smile. Some things can evolve faster than they should. They explode in a fury of energy and burn themselves out just as fast due to rapid expansion. As more and more radicals splinter off from the nucleating core, they no longer have the same fervor, and no other radicals have the energy to keep up with the various directions. That was the conclusion Cyber had come up with. Lal had been following a collaborative writing project, if one could narrow its scope so finely, as a detached participant. But it had in the course of an hour exploded beyond Lur ability to parse. This is over 6 weeks ago, and at the present, the project consisted of an unknown number of files, all linked to each other. There were at least 10 documents attempting to be a canonical table of contents, leading to what they deemed the most important documents. The original document was some 500 pages long and well over 1,000 contributors. This was all powered by a free on-wired tool for general document editing that allowed the creation of public documents. Eventually, due to trolling the original owner of the document lost control of it through defacing efforts. Then it split into many different private or semi-private clones. Each of these diverged, although there were some loose bindings as members made efforts to copy changes from one version to others. The original document was reverted to before the defacing started and frozen. But by then, the energy of the project had already begun to subside. In the beginning, it was almost like a social network. Pseudo-anonymized, people could write whatever they wanted, although ostensibly the premise of the project was an effort of cataloging all the media of a certain video channel after it had been purged from the open wired. Soon after the creation of the file, people began to play with the features of the document editing platform: color, size of text, position, meta content such as comments and annotations. Of course, images and internal links and external. The document had become many documents, and linked to all kinds of various on-wired sites. There was no potential for moderation. Within a day, things had evolved well beyond the scope. Lal was in 3 of the private collaborator lists, meaning Lal could make edits, write things, but based on the logs, none of the documents had been edited in the past few days. People had gotten bored. Thanks to the project, Lal had found a small group of acquaintances, and even a few new friends. She joined a group chat with those people. Lal didn't have much in the way of obligations. Lal had her schoolwork, as Lal was still in middle school, but that was incredibly easy for Lur, so Lal spent most of her time in class, also in a group chat. Lal always had Lur attention on several things at once, and quick to jump from topic to topic as Lur interest in the topics rose and fell. Lal was reading some of the random articles about urban planning that the document had while listening to her Lur teacher talk about factors with Lur class and friend group chat open. Lal checked them. Lal
Lol checked them now and then, and the class chat was mostly boring, focused on schoolwork, since the teacher was monitoring it. They didn't reward jokes or any off-topic discussion. Sometimes the teacher would give them questions they had to answer, and sometimes the students would ask questions of their own there. Boring, inane, tedious bullshit. The urban planning stuff was more interesting. From one perspective, it could be read as propaganda. Some of the comments suggested as much. It talked about how the building planning of cities in Lur home country was basically garbage due to the dependence on motor transportation and suburban sprawl. It isolated the members of the community and was destined to fail due to poor long-term planning of the communities. The illusion of wealth the building fostered masked the net negatives, which would only come to bear over the long term. It had been centuries this way, apparently. So why weren't things going down into the gutter? They were. Lol could see it with her Lur own eyes. Some small pockets in Lur hometown were quite prosperous, of course, but only due to the constant influx of development that was sorely missing throughout the majority. There were huge sections of town which were dangerous to be in simply due to lack of maintenance. Wealth siphoned from these, the majority, to prop up the illusion cast on the small pockets. The boon of automation on paper should have resolved the primary issue of wealth inequality. And perhaps in many ways it worked. It was uncommon for there to be homeless, but in other ways it hadn't resolved some of the more important issues of rent-seeking and general wealth distribution. Those places that served the have-nots falling quickly into decay, and without much need for work, those who fell into such a state were prevented from any kind of upward mobility. Lal considered herself lucky to be in one of the less shit parts of town. Not 2 blocks away, there was completely abandoned buildings, drug dens, Lur parents called them with utter disdain. Meanwhile, 2 blocks in the other direction were essentially mansions. There seemed to be a need in the populace for this othering. We are better than they are. If Lal wanted to get to the nearest park, it was a 2-mile walk through the neighborhood where she saw such wealth on display. It made Lur ill to think about, especially considering a 2-mile walk in the opposite direction would, if Lur parents were to be believed, would see her kidnapped or murdered. It wasn't as if those who lived in the more wealthy parts of town were much better off or worked more. In fact, based on what Lal could tell, they worked less, and had supplemental income from various projects they were able to get in on through connections and owning key parts of the land in the area. Working to secure that level of wealth was difficult. It was difficult by design. The urban planning articles weren't just doom and gloom about basic road construction, but also offered simple solutions which, if followed, have been proven in practice to have big effects. Things like narrowing roads from 4 and 6 lane roads to 2 lane roads with traffic calming to force cars to slow down, removing restrictions which forced property managers to build what the city deemed best, and allowing conditions of the community to build, for example, a small grocery store in an otherwise residential location. Lowell hadn't ever gone to the closest grocery through any means other than Lur parents' car, because it was too far away. There were no sidewalks for most of the walk, and she would have to walk an extra mile in the wrong direction just to cross the 6-lane road at a crossing. If there were something closer, Lowell wondered how much of an effect it would have. There were only 3 stores that sold most of the food necessities, and there were basically only 1 store which had other goods like clothing or appliances. Lowell hated it here. Reading this stuff made Lur envy those places where there was a small shop with food just down the street, where most people walked or looked or took other human-powered transportation, while mostly stayed home. Actually, that was a generalization. Even the majority of Lur home was essentially a hostile environment for Lur, so Lal stayed mostly in her room with the Lur screens. Lal didn't have any friends in Lur class. Lal had met them on a few occasions, but never clicked with any of them. And they all lived too far away to visit in real life anyway. Even if Lal had met someone Lal wanted to meet. When it came to friends on the Wired, there was a few Lal would consider meeting if it were possible, but due to the nature of a Wired friend group, they were very far away, on the whole other side of the planet. One of Lur friends on the group came online, and like usual began with a pseudo roleplay. Lal enjoyed that kind of game, and specifically enjoyed the time with her, so Lal gave her more to work with. Queen Yuki jumps from behind a tree. What have we here? Yellow Consimp. Hi, Yuki. Cyber hamster. What the heck? Oh my gosh, it went all the way up there. Doesn't want me to read anymore?
Well, too bad. Hi, Yuki. Cyber Hamster me drops burrito Lol was eating in surprise. Ah, where did you come from, jumping out like that? You scared me. Oh, no, that won't do, pouting. Queen Yuki steps barefoot onto a burrito, smushing it with her toes. For fuck's sake. Queen Yuki, lick it off, peasant, as my queen orders. Who's a good hammy, pets? Not everyone appreciated the somewhat sexually charged nature of the game. That was about as far as it went usually, at least on the public channels. No one was going to get offended or weirded out by it, at least not too badly. But the group chat seemed to work best when it was casual tone nonsense and everyone more or less behaved that way. Yuki liked to play this domineering persona in text chat, especially as a way to break into the conversation. But when they did voice chat, she was always fairly quiet and contemplative. Perhaps it was because she had problems being assertive with her voice that she used this persona in text, a kind of overcompensation. Lol enjoyed playing along, pushing Lur's friend to be a little more outgoing. The conversation turned to the normal bickering for a while, with Yuki having said she had just gotten home from something weird, but she needed to get food before talking about it. Lol had coasted through the remainder of the morning class without much in the way of activity. The afternoon was free for personal study of some assigned tasks that Lol estimated would take less than an hour, for which Lol was thankful. Lol had expected Yuki to come back online soon, but by the time Yuki came back online, Lur class had already ended for lunch and afternoon study. Lol had to remain logged into the class chat for those classes, but experience told Lur that Lol didn't need to pay any attention to it. Lol just needed to keep Lur machine from registering that Lol was AFK. Finally, Yuki came back online.